Imagine being at home on a quiet night, suddenly pulled by a mysterious light that pierces through the window while objects float around you. You disappeared inexplicably and reappeared 755 kilometers away, just 4 hours later. Found confused, with strange marks on your body and signs that weeks had passed. You reported being in a white room and approached by a 2.5-meter tall entity. But what makes this story even more terrifying? The disappearance of your husband and your friend, followed by rumors of men in black chasing them. This is one of the most disturbing and intriguing abduction cases ever recorded. Are you ready to unravel this mystery? Have you ever wondered what really happens in the skies and the seas? What lies hidden beyond what the human eye can see? Welcome to Immaculate Constellation, where the mysteries of the cosmos come to life. Here, we go beyond science, exploring accounts of encounters with beings from other worlds, sightings that defy all explanations, and theories the government doesn't want you to know. Get ready to question everything you believe about the universe. The truth is out there, and we're here to chase it. Subscribe now, because the reality you know may never be the same again. On October 4, 2001, the small rural town of Gandaya, located in Queensland, Australia, became the stage for one of the most intriguing cases in modern ufology. Amy Rylance, 22, lived with her husband Keith Rylance, 39, and a friend, Petra Heller, 35. Together, they were working to transform Whispering Vineyard into a thriving business. The location was remote, surrounded by native vegetation, and their improvised home consisted of 2 rooms attached to a trailer and a central living area. That night, after an exhausting day working on the property, Petra went to her room, Keith retreated to another, and Amy decided to rest on the couch in the living room while watching TV. The silence of the night was interrupted at around 11:15 p.m. when Petra awoke to an intense light coming from outside the house. Intrigued, she got up to investigate and was stunned by a surreal sight. Amy was floating in the air, enveloped in a beam of light emanating from a silver object visible through the window. The object was disc-shaped and hovered over a tree near the house. The light seemed not only to envelop Amy, but also to levitate small objects around her. Petra, paralyzed by shock, struggled to process what was happening. Before she could react, she fainted due to the intensity of the scene. When she regained consciousness minutes later, Amy was gone, and the mysterious object had disappeared into the dark sky. The living room was in disarray, with a broken window and belongings scattered across the floor. What seemed like an ordinary night in an isolated location quickly turned into a mystery of unimaginable proportions. In a state of complete panic, Petra ran to Keith's room, waking him with her screams. Initially confused, Keith noticed the broken window and the scattered objects in the living room, while Petra tried to explain what she had seen. Despite the initial incoherence of her account, she managed to describe the intense light, Amy's levitation, and the silver object hovering above the house. Keith was incredulous, but his wife's disappearance spurred him into action. The two searched the property, combing the surroundings for any sign of Amy, but found nothing. Unable to comprehend what had occurred, they decided to call the local police. At 11:40 p.m., they contacted the Taro police station, responsible for the region, reporting that Amy had disappeared in an inexplicable manner. In the call, Petra insisted that Amy had been taken by a light emitted from a flying object. Shortly afterward, police officers arrived at the property, including Officer Robert Maragna, who led the initial investigation. Petra recounted what she had witnessed, while Keith, visibly shaken, tried to maintain composure. The preliminary investigation revealed intriguing details. In addition to the broken window, one of the nearby bushes showed signs of burns, as if exposed to high temperatures. The window frame was damaged and the protective screen had been torn. These findings corroborated parts of Petra's account, but the case remained far from understood. The police, now deeply intrigued, intensified their search for clues, mapping the area in hopes of locating Amy or understanding what could have happened. At 3 a.m., While the investigation on the property was still underway, an unexpected phone call brought a new twist to the case. A woman in the city of Mackay, located an astonishing 755 kilometers from Gandaya, contacted the local police to report finding a confused young woman at a gas station. Upon assisting her, the woman discovered the young woman identified herself as Amy Rylance. This news brought immediate relief to Keith and Petra, but also raised an even deeper mystery. How could Amy have traveled such a great distance in such a short time? Keith and Petra were informed of the call and, without hesitation, began organizing their trip to Mackay. Meanwhile, the police there assessed Amy's condition. She was disoriented but physically unharmed, except for some intriguing details. Her memory was vague, and she seemed unable to recall exactly how she had arrived at the gas station. Amy only repeated that she had woken up in a wooded area near the location and walked until she saw lights. The distance between Gandaya and Mackay would require at least 8 hours by car. Yet only 4 hours had passed between Amy's disappearance and her being found. Although relieved to know Amy was alive, the details surrounding the case made the situation even more puzzling. The police, now collaborating with the Mackay authorities, began piecing together a timeline of events and planned to interview Amy to gather more information about what had truly happened. At the hospital, Amy was interviewed by local police. Still confused and visibly weak, she began recounting the events she could remember. Her last clear memory was lying on the couch, feeling drowsy. When she woke up, she found herself in a completely different environment. A rectangular, entirely white room, illuminated by an intense light that seemed to emanate from both the walls and the floor. She couldn't identify the source of the illumination. As she observed the room, Amy noticed she was lying on some kind of table and, despite the strangeness of the place, felt inexplicably calm. When she tried to call for help, she heard a male voice, firm yet calming, echoing throughout the space. The voice instructed her to remain calm, assuring her that no harm would come to her. Moments later, an opening appeared in one of the walls, and a tall figure entered the room. The being was about 2.5 meters tall, wore a one-piece suit, and had a black mask covering its face, leaving its eyes, nose, and mouth visible. Amy reported that the entity seemed to communicate with her directly, without moving its lips, reassuring her again that she was safe and would soon be returned to a location near where she had been taken. After this, she described feeling a strong wave of drowsiness and falling asleep again. Her next memory was waking up among trees, with the salty smell of the ocean nearby. Disoriented but driven by instinct, she managed to walk to a gas station, where she sought help. Amy's statement shocked everyone and deepened the mystery surrounding the case. After her rescue, Amy underwent a thorough medical evaluation that revealed disturbing findings. In addition to being visibly exhausted, she had triangular marks on the inside of her right thigh and on both heels, resembling recent scars. None of the doctors could determine the origin of these marks, which appeared to be in advanced stages of healing, suggesting a recovery time inconsistent with the few hours since her disappearance. Another striking detail was that Amy had dyed her hair blonde just days earlier, but when she was found, her roots had grown significantly, revealing her natural hair color. Specialists estimated the growth corresponded to several weeks, something inexplicable considering only 4 hours had passed since her abduction. Additionally, her body hair was longer than usual, contradicting her personal grooming habits, as Amy typically shaved almost daily. These physical changes led to the theory that Amy might have experienced time differently, as if weeks had passed for her while only hours elapsed on Earth. For investigators, these physical anomalies were hard to ignore and lent credibility to Amy's account. Although there were no concrete explanations, the case began drawing attention from ufologists and experts in unexplained phenomena who saw Amy's experience as a possible indication of extraterrestrial interaction. As the case grew more complex, Diane Harrison, a renowned Australian ufologist, was invited to participate in the investigation. Diane contacted her colleague Bill Chalker, a specialist in abductions and light-related phenomena, to analyze the events. Together, they decided to visit the property in Gandia where everything had started. Upon arrival, they were greeted by Keith and Petra, who provided detailed accounts of the night of the abduction. During their analysis of the site, Diane and Bill noticed something curious. The dog living on the property exhibited unusual behavior. It kept jumping toward the broken window, something Keith and Petra said it hadn't done before the incident. Diane speculated that there might be some residual energy affecting the animal. However, the lack of advanced equipment at the time made it difficult to gather concrete evidence. Diane and Bill also examined previously documented traces, such as the burns on a bush near the window and structural damage, suggesting exposure to high temperatures. However, no additional evidence was found to definitively confirm the presence of a craft or unknown technology. Despite this, the investigators believe the combination of Amy's account, her physical marks, and the dog's atypical behavior indicated that something extraordinary had occurred. As Diane and Bill delved deeper into their investigation, an unexpected turn of events shook the case. During a planned visit to interview Amy, Keith, and Petra, the investigators discovered that the trio had left the area suddenly and without warning. When they arrived at the lodging where they were staying, Diane and Bill found only abandoned belongings and no clues about where they had gone. Attempts to contact them by phone resulted in voicemail messages and unanswered calls. Days later, Keith finally contacted Diane. Nervous, he claimed they had been approached by men in black, figures often associated with UFO cases and conspiracy theories. According to Keith, these individuals followed and confronted them, demanding they alter their version of events. He said that after the confrontation, he feared for Amy's, Petra's, and his own safety. He also stated that they had decided to leave the area out of fear of retaliation. Keith's explanation added another layer of mystery to the case. While some speculated that the trio's disappearance was an attempt to evade public scrutiny, others saw it as a possible response to genuine intimidation. Regardless of the reason, the group's departure further complicated the investigation, leaving Diane, Bill, and the ufology community with few concrete leads to pursue. The disappearance of Amy, Keith, and Petra divided opinions among investigators and the public. Some began questioning the legitimacy of the case, suggesting the trio might have fabricated the story to attract attention or gain financial benefits. These theories gained traction when rumors emerged that they had attempted to sell their version of events to local media, though this was never confirmed. Despite suspicions, many elements of the case continued to defy simple explanations. The physical changes in Amy, including her accelerated hair growth and abnormal scarring patterns, remained evidence critics couldn't dismiss. Additionally, the initial involvement of the police and Petra's consistent testimony about what she saw strengthened the credibility of the account, even amid controversies. Ufologists following the case also defended the possibility that the trio had been coerced into disappearing. Diane and Bill, after their investigations at the site, concluded that there were inexplicable factors in the incident. For them, the coherence of the accounts and the lack of obvious financial motives suggested something genuine had occurred. However, the lack of new information or access to the trio left lingering doubts about the true nature of the event. Ufologists following the case also defended the possibility that the trio had been coerced into disappearing. Diane and Bill, after their investigations at the site, concluded that there were inexplicable factors in the incident. For them, the coherence of the accounts and the lack of obvious financial motives suggested something genuine had occurred. However, the lack of new information or access to the trio left lingering doubts about the true nature of the event. Furthermore, medical examinations conducted on Amy immediately after her reappearance revealed anomalies that reinforced the idea that she had undergone an extraordinary experience. The triangular marks on her body and the unusual growth of her hair and body hair were physical evidence that intrigued both medical professionals and ufologists. Although these findings couldn't be explained by conventional science, they were also not dismissed as fraudulent, given the difficulty of replicating such effects in such a short time. For many scholars of UFO phenomena, the Amy Rylands case represented one of the most well-documented abduction stories. The combination of physical evidence, consistent testimonies, and official police involvement elevated the story above typical accounts. Still, the lack of concrete explanations and the trio's disappearance left significant gaps, keeping the mystery alive and challenging the boundaries of what is considered possible. The whereabouts of Amy, Keith, and Petra remain a mystery to this day. Rumors have surfaced suggesting the trio has been spotted in places as far as northern England, but none of these claims have been confirmed. Diane Harrison and Bill Chalker made numerous attempts to re-establish contact, but all efforts proved fruitless. The silence from those involved and their sudden departure fueled theories that they might be in hiding to avoid retaliation or escape a trauma they never wanted to relive. The case remains without definitive explanations. For some, the most plausible hypothesis is that the entire story was an elaborate hoax, perhaps aimed at gaining attention or financial resources. However, for others, the physical evidence, consistent testimonies, and official involvement of authorities point to a genuine abduction event, placing the case among the most fascinating in UFO history. Despite extensive investigations and numerous theories, no conclusion has explained how Amy traveled 755 kilometers in just 4 hours, or why her body exhibited signs that weeks had passed for her in a brief earthly time frame. This enigma, blending science, mystery, and the unknown, continues to intrigue investigators, enthusiasts, and skeptics alike, keeping the case alive as one of the greatest modern mysteries. Gosta des Mysterio, inscrevesi, deixo like e comparto com amigos interessados. Se quisser mais videos como esse, ativo sininho para receber as notificações.